Somehow, Atletico overtook Real Madrid at the top of La Liga during Real's really bad run, which is not exactly the title race I really intended to have during this season. I need to somehow make some money off of players like Longley to provide a backup striker. But now nobody wants him. Another option is to sneak in a free transfer at the end of the season, and Taremi is a good option for this tactic as he is a quality striker. And being a profit-only director of football means I don't have to sell anybody for bringing in Taremi. Means he is literally a free shot. I'm not counting his wages involved in the director of football profit-only challenge. I've also just noticed that Xavi's first match of the new year is Atletico Madrid. PSG then came in with two huge bids. First for Ferran Torres, who I would be willing to sell, but I maybe got a little too greedy and asked for far too much and they cancelled. The other was for Frenkie de Jong, and I have no intention of selling him yet until a summer or two's time. Some good news is that Xavi snapped up the manager of the month for December, so congrats to him. And then Frenkie de Jong was unhappy because I wouldn't sell him to PSG, so I told him and his agent it wasn't enough, and we settled on a £90 million asking price. Man City tried their luck with a pathetic bid for Ansu Fati, which I rejected next. The guy is only 21 with huge promise, and I don't want to let him go anywhere under 100 million. Then finally, PSG came in to make this interesting, offering £50 million for Ferran Torres, and I was happy to accept. He's an okay player, but I know I can use that money to bring in a much better option for this team. The Atletico Madrid game is incredibly feisty, and João Felix brutally slapped one of our players from behind, earning a straight red card after just 8 minutes. Well deserved.
He is atrocious, isn't he?
And Marcos Llorente was also an idiot in the first half and shoved a player over already on a yellow card, and Felix shouldn't drain the bathwater because Marcos is on his way for an early bath too. Come on, now we just need a goal. Annoyingly, it took until the 81st minute before Koundé played Torres down the wing and his cutback found Ansu Fati to prod home the winner. And that win bumped us up just a point behind Atletico Madrid, with Real Madrid having a game in hand, which they won 1-0 thanks to Renato Sanchez's goal, leapfrogging us both to go to top of the table. Annoyingly, Taremi chose to go to AC Milan, however Ferran Torres agreed terms with PSG and will be leaving the club. So we now have £50 million to play with. Who do we bring in? So the striker I mentioned I liked earlier was none other than Gabriel Barbosa, Gabigol, so I stuck in a cheeky offer. He just looks like a Barcelona player to me, and I really think he would be a quality backup option for Lewandowski, who's about to return from his injury very soon, by the way. Flamengo came back with a negotiated offer, which I brought down to 13.25 with add-ons up to 16 million. I managed to get Barbosa to agree to a squad player role, which was perfect, and although he wanted a high wage, his agent's patience was very short, so I crept them down just slightly. Now I have Chelsea bidding for Araujo, and they are persistent, going over 107 million, but I don't want to sell my best defender just yet. I thought it would be funny to try and offer Longley out to Chelsea instead to see if they would be interested in taking him off my hands for me. Then Manchester City and PSG also put in offers for Gabigol, and I really started to get twitchy. So I put in a higher contract offer, way overpaying really. And there is a lot of pressure for the guy's signature now. Jules Koundé asked for ridiculous wages, and eventually, after many failed contract discussions, he submitted a transfer request. Really wish I'd saved Todd Bowley's number. Sad times as club legend Lionel Messi signed for Manchester City for £3.4 million. I would have done that too. 1-1 away to Sevilla in the next match, and Lewandowski smashes his penalty into Africa. I am being a little bit harsh. It was his first game back for months, and he did score the opening goal of the game. Honestly, Chelsea are crazy. This is like their 7th bid, and I'm willing to see if they want to go overboard, and apparently yes, £154 million is acceptable. I might have to keep Clement Longley at this point. Barbosa, annoyingly, also moved to Manchester City, and Araujo is now just a work permit away from breaking Chelsea's transfer record. Back to the centre-back situation, De Ligt was the first player that came to mind, but his price tag was way too high. Then I seen Upamecano, and I realised this could be a better choice because of his release clause, and when comparing them both together, there is not a lot of difference at all. I think I'm going to commit to Upamecano. I think 65 million, that's a steal. Especially when I'm selling Araujo for double the price. Because he's decent, he's quicker than, and stronger to be fair, than De Ligt. So I actually prefer that. We know that's good. And if I look at him in comparison to Araujo, it's not that Araujo though, it's the other one, Ronald, then there isn't again much difference. I know that Ronald Araujo is probably a little bit better on the ball and defensively, but for the fundamentals of a centre-back and what works, pace, It's Upamecano. He's better at that. He's just a year older. Probably, you know, going to cost me less than half of what he was going to sell Ronald Araujo for. So, I think it's a good deal. Oh, you are kidding me. He's just signed a new contract. How soon? How soon was it? Was it the start of this year? A month ago. I hate that. I tried going back for option number 1, but unfortunately Bayern were really playing hardball and wouldn't accept anything less than what I just sold Araujo for, basically, and I couldn't physically bring myself around to pay that much money for just one player. And I'm starting to feel like clubs are slightly aware that we have a lot of money about to come in and are taking advantage of these valuations. I tried some of the best centre-backs on the game and I was running out of options. I even got a little bit desperate and started looking at players that should never ever wear a Barcelona shirt. But I think I found a replacement eventually. I like Kalulu. He's quick, he has decent mental attributes, maybe not the best technically just yet, but he usually has a good potential on the game. And I think although my scouts don't rate him very high in potential, like I still think he would have a potential. He's a lot of money. He is a lot, but maybe I can manipulate it to be a little bit less. Oh my god. It says 53 to 79 million. You're taking the mick out of me saying 96. 75. 75 plus 14. That's not what I'm suggesting. Plus 2.5. 75.5 million pound. At least it's still, you know, half of what I'm making out of Ronald Araujo. Contracts were easy. He was happy as a squad player and not asking too much money. Now we just have to find our backup striker because I've lost 2 of the attempts already into Remy and Barbosa. This transfer window is not going how I planned it at all. I realised that with Vitor Roque out on loan, I could just bring in a loan deal myself, and Broja fits that backup striker bill quite perfectly, to be honest. As long as Chelsea are happy with him being just a squad player, we are golden. And they seem fine with it. Results on the pitch were not fine, however. We got the deal completed for Kalulu, and the more I think about it, the more I don't mind it. He's young still and can still develop into a quality defender. And not to mention that we can use the money left over from the Araujo deal in the summer and bring in somebody else should we need to. Obviously, Upamecano could be a really good option back then, and we can completely transform our defence at that point. But right now, I think we're in a good spot, and we've got money left over to plan for the next season. Also getting the Armando Broja deal done too. Xavi had different ideas, however, for Kalulu, put him right back with Frankie de Jong going centre-back. I mean, they still won 3-0, but, you know. Why? One last look at the transfer list and I see Nathan Ake for £23 million. And I kind of wish I'd seen that before I got Kalulu. Wouldn't normally accept bids from Atletico Madrid, but an optional bid at the end of a long deal for Serginho Dest is quite intriguing. With the transfer window now closed, we need to focus on our form, because we have slipped 6 points behind Atletico again. Interestingly, Real were knocked out the Copa del Rey, a competition that Xavi seemed to take very seriously, thankfully. Our league form has also improved after the winter period, and we began scoring some wonderful goals. Lewandowski was back doing what he does best, and I was very much enjoying our football. And Pierre Kalulu seemed to be enjoying himself too, playing mainly at centre-back now. That's a run we needed right before El Clasico when Real Madrid come to the Camp Nou. Not to mention, we put ourselves in the Copa del Rey final. And it was Bilbao who would meet us there. El Clasico was always going to be tight, and it took a scrappy goal from Lewandowski to put us ahead on the hour mark. However, we held on strong until a long ball over the top and bad defending from Jules Koundé allowed Vinicius Jr. to fire in an equaliser. We drew the next game as well, annoyingly, meaning we are back to 6 points behind Atletico, who are really playing well. Don't ask me how, but Salzburg kept a clean sheet in both legs of the Champions League and they knocked us out 1-0. I'm baffled by that. The league game before the cup final, Mallorca have a penalty, but miss the big opportunity to take the lead. And Barcelona don't give out many second chances around here, and Fati popped in the rebound from Gundogan's unreal effort. Lewandowski in the second half made it a comfortable 2-0 win. Copa del Rey final time, and my man Kalulu opens the scoring within just 4 minutes. What a signing, and then in the second half, Ansu Fati releases a sumptuous free ball that Gavi got on the end of, and we lift the cup at the Bernabeu. We dropped silly points the game after though against Rayo Vallecano, but other than that, we can't stop winning games with just 4 left, including Atletico Madrid on the final day. and there is still a chance for an outside opportunity to have a crack at that title. And that's exactly the motivation that this team needed. They were unstoppable at the beginning of May, destroying Osasuna 3-0. Getafe didn't stand a chance either when Lewandowski scored within 6 minutes, and then the tiki-taka came out to play and they couldn't get near us to take the ball off of us, and Gundogan is firing home from long range before great football yet again into a wonderful strike from Rafinha. And even 6th place Villarreal found themselves 3-0 down at home before picking up just a consolation goal. Whereas elsewhere, this Valencia goal stopped Atletico Madrid winning the league in just the 91st minute as well. They are still in the driver's seat, but it literally comes down to the final day, and all 3 teams could win it. Even though it came down to the wire on the final day, the man that stepped up was 19-year-old Gavi, who not only smashed in the first goal, but the second one as well, taking all 3 points. However, it wasn't time to be cheering, unfortunately, because Carlo Ancelotti's team won 5-0 on the final day. And La Liga's sorting rules are done by head-to-head. And although we drew with Real in March 1-1, we also took a loss against them back in October, and that does not go in our favour. And even though we got a higher goal difference and on the same points, Real Madrid are crowned champions of Spain, with all 3 teams finishing on 89 points. I'm sorry, but that has to be the closest title race of all time. At least though, we won that Copa del Rey. And we start the summer transfer window already in credit by £87 million to make some new signings.